Thank you for joining me back here on the last segment of the show to talk some more about the quarterback situation in Minnesota surrounding J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold. Obviously, the Vikings selected J.J. with the 10th overall pick this year. A great match. I was saying it in the lead up to the NFL draft that I believe if J.J. goes there, it would be a match made in heaven for me. But right away, people knew that this could probably be a bridge quarterback situation with also the fact that they signed Sam Darnold. So throwing J.J. McCarthy out there right away would have probably caused a lot of confusion. So it seems like the safe bet right now, and according to multiple reports and sources around the Vikings, that they have Darnold as the starter already based on what they're saying. No official decision, but it just seems like the more likely outcome at this point. But massive, massive point here. JJ has been doing everything it seems to at least impress his teammates. Like new Vikings linebacker Blake Cashman coming over from the Houston Texans, having his own experience with a rookie quarterback and seeing a guy blossom into a superstar with his own eyes, and C.J. Stroud last year, now being put in a very similar situation with J.J. McCarthy. I think what he says does hold a little bit more value there because he has seen the habits, the behaviors of a young quarterback who turned out to be very good, and seeing probably similar patterns and similar behaviors from JJ and CJ, I think it holds a little bit more value. A very specific point of view here from Blake Cashman. He said some of the things that have impressed him. He said he's got a great long ball, and even those tight windows where it closes fast at the end, at the next level, he could zip the ball past a linebacker or a safety's head and squeeze it in those tight windows. That's very promising to see. And originally, to point out his arm, I think that was a major question coming into the draft with JJ not having too many pass attempts under his belt because he only started for 2 seasons, and it seemed to be a lot more of the physical doubts like the arm, the stature of him, his build, his frame, all that after starting for only 2 seasons at Michigan. Like I mentioned, he only had 713 pass attempts in his time as the starter, so there were questions about that, and especially his arm talent and strength based on that fact. And if you compare it to anybody else, like some of these quarterbacks that threw it all over the yard and that were in college a lot longer than him, like a Michael Penix, a Bo Nix, they certainly had a lot more pass attempts. If you look at Bo Nix, he had 1,936 pass attempts in 5 years. So people, when they see that, they see, oh, Bo Nix is more mature. He might be a little bit more prepared to make that jump over J.J. McCarthy, who, granted, they had all that success last year with Michigan, but personally, individually, from a quarterbacking standpoint, some might look at Bo Nix as being more ready because he has been in those environments more often. But they were drafted very close to one another. But where I think JJ almost separates himself, I'll bring up after what Blake Cashman said further on what else he's noticed about JJ McCarthy. He said he's a leader. He's eager to learn. A lot of young guys, sometimes they can come in, be a little bit timid or shy, but he's walking around the locker room, big smile on his face, shaking hands, getting to know everybody. And I think that is what you get when you've been coached by Jim Harbaugh, being in that almost NFL locker room environment, or as close as you can get it at the college level with Jim Harbaugh, and him being a quarterback himself, getting JJ to have some of these habits, treating everyone as a quarterback should be treated from a mental and leadership standpoint. Jim Harbaugh being similarly in his shoes from a quarterback standpoint. I think giving him all this knowledge on how a quarterback should play at that next level, on how they should act in the locker room, and building all these great habits out of JJ, I think that is probably one of the more impressive things that really separates JJ at this point in time from a lot of quarterbacks that, it's not their fault that they haven't been in this situation. Obviously, not everybody gets to be coached by Jim Harbaugh or someone like that, but with JJ using that to his advantage and impressing a guy like Blake Cashman, who has seen it with C.J. Stroud last year, I think holds a lot of merit compared to what other teammates might have to say about him. I think with Blake having that experience with CJ, I think it really just has a little bit more value. And I was a little bit surprised to get to the question, is it a disaster if J.J. McCarthy is the week 1 quarterback? I was surprised right away that it wasn't deemed an outright competition. I can understand it, but at least maybe in some press conferences or some interviews with, I'm forgetting their coach's name, Kevin O'Connell, at least say we're waiting until the pads come on to really evaluate our quarterbacks or something like that. It seems like the foregone conclusion now is that Sam Darnold is going to be the quarterback 1. And for me, with Darnold, I know he's been in some bad situations. He was with the 49ers last year, but as a backup, I just don't see a lot of that special it factor, that creativity, that magic that I might see with JJ. I think he really has, that factor. Like I mentioned, it might not pop out right away in arm strength, physical build, or something like that. Everybody's got that, but not everybody can be that leader, can be so calm in those big moments, can have that experience of being in those big games. I think that separates JJ a lot, and for right now, is it a disaster if JJ starts week 1? I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be a disaster. I think it would probably be just as risky as maybe starting Sam Darnold in a way, because I just think you get it a little bit more of a monotone game plan, more monotone play style from Sam Darnold. And it's not my intention to come on here and say that Sam Darnold should definitely not be the starter, but I understand the point of why he is looked at the starter right now. But sometimes, like a Justin Herbert situation where he's not expected to start and he does end up starting a lot earlier than people think, you catch lightning in a bottle miraculously, and then you're sprinting right away out the gates rather than crawling, then walking and getting through all this long process. Sometimes the young quarterbacks have to be thrown out there in a situation, not to contradict myself, it's not like they're throwing him out there in an awful situation where he has no receivers, no running backs, or no nothing. He has the best wide receiver, arguably, in the NFL out there. Jordan Addison had a great rookie season. Aaron Jones in the backfield. TJ Hawkinson, when he comes back, one of the top 3 tight ends in the NFL. He is surrounded by talent, so it's not a huge risk, really, to just throw him out there, or if Sam doesn't play well and JJ actually does win it, or if Sam unfortunately gets hurt. I don't think it's the end of the world if JJ is named the week 1 starter at quarterback based on what Blake Cashman is saying, based off of what I believe, and the talent that they have around JJ. I don't think it's the end of the world if it starts. It might look ugly in a game or two, but again, you're going off script now because it wasn't according to the plan, but you're just going to have to ride it out and accept these learning curves and know that J.J. McCarthy is going to get better. I believe he's going to get better as the season goes on. I hope to see him as the starter, but that is all up in the air right now, up until at least we get the pads on and we really get to see JJ throw against some NFL level defenses and how Sam Darnold looks as well. That'll be one of the more interesting training camp storylines to follow once training camp does start in 2.5 weeks. But that's where I'll leave it, that segment, and that's where I'll leave the show because we have run out of time here on today's episode. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to today's show of the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the show, as well as following the network on all forms of social media. If you want to see more of this show, check out the GSMC Sports Network channel and the GSMC Podcast Network channel on YouTube for, again, various forms of NFL content through shorts, individual segment videos, or all the live shows are all on both YouTube channels. And as a final reminder, tune in every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time for more NFL discussions and storylines around the league with me, Manny Maradiaga, as your host. Thanking you for joining me, and I expect to see you guys all back here again with me tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. 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 Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to